name's Mark Forrester. I'm the chairman of a company called 80 Days. Some of you might know us as Occupancy Marketing. So I founded that business 15, 16 years ago, and I've been involved in digital marketing ever since there. And I wanted to share some insight with you today. Just in terms of the agenda, the theme of the conference is disruptor. So, what I've done is I've kind of looked at some of the past themes that we've seen in digital. I want to talk to you about what I think some of the future trends are. And as it's just me up here today, I thought I could involve you in that, get your input as to what you think some of the future trends might be. I'm going to share some industry benchmarks because I think that's something that's going to become more and more important to us as digital marketeers over the coming years. Some tips to improve conversion. There's many, we'll touch on this, but there's many things that you can do to improve conversion. And finally, some conclusions and recommendations. So disruptors in digital, what have we seen? If we go back in time, it's not necessarily 2009, but if we go back in time, that's kind of what the Google SERPs page looked like, the Google search engine results page. For hospitality or indeed any other business, we had ads on the top and we had ads on the right-hand side. Ads were pretty clear, actually. I think they're quite distinct from the organic search. Organic was quite a big part of the play. I always used to feel that we could actually help turn around a client's business just by organic search, even though maybe their branding wasn't great, their website wasn't great. Can't really do that anymore, just an organic search, much more complicated. So that's 2009, so what's happened? Well, quite a lot's happened. I mean, I think one of the most interesting things that I know is that hotel marketing is now somewhat different than general marketing online because we have something called hotel price ads, or meta search is what we might call it in the industry. Meta search doesn't exist if you're looking for a toaster, or a plumber. So that's something that's unique to us, a challenge that we've had to face in our industry. And then, of course, we've got the Google local search that's been introduced. But probably the biggest change, going back, is that now over 50% of our searches, and I've not been to all the sessions today, but now over 50% of our searches are, on a mobile. And that has massive implications for us because people use multiple devices now to go and search. So our ability to be able to track that person right the way through the customer life cycle is more and more complicated. And also, of course, the call to action is quite different if you're using mobile because it's much more click to call and telephoning as opposed to actually booking online. So you've got the kind of dichotomy there. Can't show my FD the ROI I'm going to get from mobile ads, so shall I just not do them? And we've had lots of these discussions with people. So that's definite disruptor, if you want, is the way that Google and indeed other search engines have changed, and that will always be the case. So what does that kind of look like today? What does the hotel search engine results page look like? I picked this particular example because I think this property does quite a good job of protecting their brand. We talked quite a bit today about, and there was a throwaway comment, really, wasn't it? Really, we should just allow OTAs just to market our business. It's only 20-25% cost. What the person that threw away that comment didn't mention was that the way that OTAs are spending most of their billions marketing is using your brand name to do it, not creating any additional value. So, it was a tongue-in-cheek kind of throw the hand grenade out there and get the response. So in terms of brand search, what do we think? What do you need to be doing? You need to be protecting your brand online. So here's a really good example where this particular property, and in fact, in this instance, you'll notice there is no OTA insertion in there. So Booking.com or whatever isn't bidding, but you can see that they've done a good job of having a nice visible search engine results listing for themselves, and that really comes through looking at the way that the whole site has been coded and engineered. They've got quite a lot of that space. Quite a lot of additional site links have been shown in there. And by the way, you can edit what site links are in there or not in there. On the right-hand side, we've got the Google My Business listing, and then of course we've got the meta search, and they're actually active in meta search. So call it 65% of that page they've got and they own, which is quite nice, quite a good job. So go away, have a look, do the same for yourself, have a look at what percentage of that real estate you own. Oh, I mentioned mobile, tablet. I think we all know it's there. To us, the biggest issue that it's caused, as I say, is that discussion that it's actually harder now to measure the return that you're getting. But there's other ways you can do it. We're helping our customers look at, well, look, how many wedding inquiry calls do you get? What's the average value of a wedding? What's your conversion rate? Right, how many click-to-calls did we have? And we can come back and you can look and you can attribute a value a different way. So I would definitely encourage you to be looking at that. Social explosion. It was absolutely brilliant 10 years ago because we put up the description of what we wanted people to believe our hotel was about. There's nowhere else for anyone to go. So therefore that must be true. That's an exact photo of what the bedroom's going to look like. Just like the McDonald's Happy Meal looks exactly like that. And there was nowhere else for people to go, and really, is it any surprise that there's been the social explosion, and is there any surprise that people will actually go and vet and use your site now as only one part of the journey in actually looking, to buy that product? They're going to go and vindicate something online. Of course they are. Think about buying a wedding. Think about a wedding, sorry. Most important day of your life. Are you going to believe what's written in the brochure? Are you going to go online? Are you going to look at other people's experience on Pinterest of the wedding at that particular venue? Are you going to look at YouTube? Of course you are. You're going to look at reviews and other various sites. So it's natural, and that now exists. So the reason I'm saying that is, don't focus just on your own website. You need to focus on distributing your content right the way across that whole ecosystem, because this will actually improve the conversion on your own website if that all matches up and your brand is saying the same thing. I thought Google were going to use a whole load of stats earlier in the presentation before, so I didn't use any Google stats in this, and this is an Expedia travel survey that's come out recently, and they all say the same thing, and basically it's there to shock you. It's there to make you think, blimey, that is the period of time that people are looking at to book travel, 45 days. And secondly, the number of websites that people are actually looking at. So that's what you're competing with. Now, of course, that could be you viewed a number of times. That could be your property viewed on a number of different social media sites, which would include within that actual number. I don't want to touch too much on that, but of course the whole look of websites has just changed so massively. For a laugh, I looked at a few sites, but this is Glen Eagles in 2007, and that's a reflection of what. In fact, Glen Eagles isn't even doing that today. They actually launched another website a few months ago. This style has changed so much, doesn't it? It's much more image-led. It's much more brand-led, and much more visual content, and video has certainly come into it. So massive past disruptors. I don't think the past disruptors are that challenging for you to deal with. Make sure you've got either an online department or a decent digital agency that know what they're doing in terms of their online advertising. Make sure you've got meta search connectivity. If you don't, really challenge your CRS provider as to why. These days there's often ways around it. Make sure that you have a social strategy and you're thinking about the whole ecosystem and how you want to be presented. Don't just focus on your own website. And mobile, I mean, not many people would not have a responsive website today. Some might not have a responsive booking engine yet, but it's coming. I'm sure you're working on it. So there's some basics that you kind of want to be and I won't do a show of hands. I think if I did, I think 80% of you you're probably okay with that. So, future trends. Does anyone have a view? What we've seen some of the things that have happened in the past. This is just my view, my office's view coming up. I've got 5 or 6 points as to what we think that the future trends. Lindsay, sorry, I'm picking you. What is there something you think that's going to be? What you're worried about? What do you think might happen? What do we need to be worried about? What's keeping us up at night?
I think this the personalisation thing now. How can we get that into the search
Fantastic.
criteria and that sort of thing?
I'm going to cover a couple of points on personalisation. I'll help you. Video. I think we're seeing a trend to more visual websites. Some websites have video and or moving imagery on their homepage. It's becoming more and more of a trend. So again, personal view. I think personalisation is becoming much more important. I'll talk a little bit about what we mean by personalisation. That's both in terms of search, a little bit in terms of what the lady from Google was mentioning, and also our experience on websites becoming much more personal. Understanding the brand has been a little bit of a bugbear of mine recently because I've had my eyes opened. You think you're in the industry for a long time, you think you know most things, and actually it's great when you learn some new stuff. I think there's much more of a conversion focus because I think it's going to be harder to get more traffic. I mean, traffic is there. We're competing with so much online. We've certainly only got so much time. It's expensive to get traffic now because organic isn't there. So really, I think we need to focus more on conversion, better targeting of search. I'll talk a little bit about that. New internet booking engines and technology I want to touch on. I think some interesting things happening there, and video. Okay, so what does success look like? I've been working this as a little bit of a pet project for the last 18 months because one of the questions that I'm often asked is we'll go and present some results to people and we'll say, there's the number of visitors you got, there's the conversion rate you had. And they'll go, well, that's great, but what does it mean? What does that actually mean? Well, how does that compare to my competitors? And where I'm going with this is I think that the more insight you have into terms of how you're comparing with your benchmark, your industry, I think it will allow you to better focus and make improvements in digital marketing because you can focus on where you are weaker than your competition as opposed to just going in blind and trying and testing various different things. So I'm actually just going to share some stats with you. This is just a report that we offer. So this is independent hotels, January 2007. The data set's 14, and it's London. So here you can see I've created a little bit of a funnel. So we've got 43,000 visits to the hotel site, and 25% of them go into the booking engine. They can't come out unless they go in. 25% go in. The rest are looking at F&B, spa, I don't know, whatever they might be doing, directions. The booking engine conversion, so those that go in, those that go out, is 1.32%. Okay, people outside of the industry are often amazed when I say to them that conversion rate's roughly 1%. I go, bloody hell, what happens to the other 99? We don't have time to go into that. We'll partly go into that. So the overall conversion for the 5-star hotel in London, according to our benchmark, last month was 0.35%. One in 300 actually booked online. So quite interesting to work out, what the others did. By the way, the AdWords spend was $3,450, and I've just got a quick benchmark for 4-star. It's not massively different. There's two things that are different, and there's 12 independents in here. Until we've built up this data set so it's much bigger, then it will get more and more interesting. But the IBE conversion rate is higher. I think you would expect that. 5-star, we've talked a bit about experience today. It's about a bit more than a room. It's actually about a bit more than just booking online. We have a client that only 18 months ago allowed its customers to book online. They had a wait list to stay there, so they didn't need it. And the booking engine conversion rate is a lot higher. AdWords spend is not that much different. So anyway, just some interesting stats for you, and over time, if you follow us, you will see us publishing more and more data and more industry stats, because I'm a big believer that we really need to get that stats and that data out there to help us identify the real areas that we actually need to work. Okay, I'm going to look now at improving conversion. Easier said than done is what I would say. This is a slide that I put together a few years ago for a client, because I was increasingly getting involved in client meetings where they were saying, we've got an SEO problem, we've got a website problem. Actually, they didn't. They had an organizational problem or a revenue problem, and they weren't getting together as a team, and they weren't tackling this, and they weren't solving it. And I put this together just to show people, well, it's kind of quite complex. There's quite a lot of variables involved in having a successful direct production. One person is not going to solve it, and it really needs to be, a committee of people put together. So here's another example of that. I had a wee think about what do I think are the things, or what do my teams think are some of the key things that would be involved in improving conversion rate. And we could debate these, and we could add more, and we could talk about this all afternoon. And I then just had to go at overlaying, well, whose key responsibility is it? Is it marketing? Is it revenue? Is it IT? And by the way, what's quite interesting as well is I've come across quite a few situations where marketing and revenue have different incentives from the chief exec, and their incentives are often not helping the direct production of the website. And in a simple thing, but unless you're looking at that and how you're incentivizing your people and aligning your goals, it'll be quite difficult. Okay, so the main point is it needs to be a team effort to get together to look at doing this. Now, what do I think that you could be leaving here and going away and doing to help improve conversion of the website? Well, number one, I think, is the brand. Okay, so I'm even surprising myself that I'm saying that, because I wouldn't have said it 2 years ago. And what I mean by that is, unless you can describe what your brand is, and you know what makes you unique, you can't explain it to others. And if you can't explain it to others, what message are you going to give others? What are you going to tell them? And how are you going to differentiate yourselves? So again, I found myself in quite a few discussions with people where they've said, look, our ADR is behind our competitor set. We've got an SEO problem. Okay, so let's sit down and talk about that. Right, what's the message you want to get out? Well, we want to get a higher rate. Yeah. What's justifying your higher rate? Well, we're in Kensington. Right, what's justifying the rate? And it's getting behind the brand to identify what are these core messages? Why would people buy you? Why would people justify that rate? And I think that's really, really important. And I appreciate it is quite difficult, and I was thinking about it. I was thinking about Travelodge, and I was thinking about, well, do they have a brand proposition? And I thought, because I mostly work with independents, right, or smaller chains. I thought, well, yeah, actually they do. It's a good sleep, good value. So what is it that you're offering? And is it really clear? And do you know who your audience is, and go out, and do that? And I've picked, again, I just want to maybe try and hit the point home a little bit on this. I think everyone knows the Goring. So what do you think the Goring's about? What's the Goring's brand essence? Just shout out.
Quintessentially British.
Okay, there's always one SWAT in the room. Very, very, very close, but not 100%. I was expecting not the correct answer. I was expecting you to say English, royalty, quality, upmarket. And again, it's not a plug of the Goring. It's just, I think quintessentially English is very good. I think Jeremy going, what's your business about? Well, quintessentially we're English. And we give the American visitor that experience. I think it's done. I think they've nailed it. And I think from there, you can take that message out through the website and the content. And again, so hopefully that gets the point over about the brand. And the reason I say that is because as a techie marketee, well, techie SEO guy, my kind of background, it wasn't until I got more involved in the brand side, I saw the results that it brought, and you actually brought that together and really got it humming. Okay, content is a natural extension of that, really, because if you don't know what your brand is, it's quite hard to write about, quite hard to know what your tone of voice is, quite hard to know how you kind of write it. So this is just a little example. This is a project, or it could be any project, but it's a project we're working on right now. So we're looking to discover, well, what is it people are looking at in terms of that brand, and then from there, you're looking to build up the picture in terms of, well, what are the key segments that business is all about? What is it that people will come and buy? Where would you like them to come in from search, from social, into the site, and then follow a user journey? And again, the point about the content isn't being created for your website alone. The content is being created for your website and all your social channels. And actually going back to the last session on CRM, also your email marketing, you quite often see that as well, don't you? We all subscribe to various emails, or we're not subscribed, but we get them. And actually it's quite a different user experience that we get from an email than it is when we go and look at the hotel's brand website. I think that needs to be totally joined up. Targeting and personalization is something that I think has been touched on earlier, and there's a couple of elements to that I would like to chat about. The first is, let's make our life easy for ourselves. So if we're looking to go and market our hotel to an audience, one of the things that we recommend doing is going and looking at your OTA inbox, your OTA console, looking at where the guests are coming from, because you might not be getting guests direct through through Sabre or whatever from the GCC, but they might be coming through Booking.com because Booking.com's got everything in Arabic. So that's a really good clue for you, isn't it? It's looking at one of the things actually the OTAs do really well is their localization's great, and their marketing is great in 100 and something countries. And we always forget that. Our marketing maybe is okay in Britain, but is generally pretty rubbish in the 100 and something countries. So we really need to think about that. So look at the OTA for some insight into where your feeder markets are coming. So in this example, we found out that 69% of the direct revenue came from these countries. And this is really interesting as well, that demographics, again, this is a client we're onboarding at the moment. And what it shows is that the number of visits that are coming from the 25 to 35-year-old, this is a resort in Geneva. And I guess what we're seeing there is a lot of aspirational visitors. They're looking, but they can't book. And what you're seeing is the older demographic is actually, well, not older, kind of fits me quite nicely. They've got a greater propensity to book. Now, the reason I'm saying that is because with Google AdWords now, we can actually target people based on gender and age, as well as location. I mean, it's just quite amazing, the difference that Google has given us in terms of these tools. And this is a genuine, we don't quite understand this yet, but we've not had the onboarding meeting with the client. Look at the visits, female to male, absolute massive difference. So we're saying to ourselves, well, hang on, when we're setting up the campaigns for this client, why aren't we putting our budget towards the male visitor? Of course, you're not going to do that without understanding it. You need to get behind the scenes of it, and that's the type of discussion. But it's that type of personalisation that we couldn't do before. So we've talked a little bit about search, and personalisation of search, and the lady from Google was talking about it as well. It's quite interesting that you can take, I'm not sure that you picked up on it, or I'll emphasise the point, you can take subsets of data, so call it your email marketing list, call it people that visited your booking engine and never booked, and then you can overlay that on other Google searches. So people that are searching for a luxury estate but in the UK, or a luxury resort, or a 5-star hotel London, but they're also on your email database, and you can actually match these two and get a much more targeted response. I think that's quite nice, because our organic search, our ability to influence things in organic search has definitely reduced. Local search is in there, meta search is in there. So it's really nice that we've got all these tools coming. And I would say, I've been in the industry for quite a while, it's actually online advertising that is progressing the most. I would say if you're doing your online advertising in-house, it sounds like a plug here, I think you must be struggling, because we see changes almost every day. We're managing 350, 400 clients. There's so much innovation coming out from Google and other providers. It's quite tough to keep up and stay on top of the curve. Personalization, we talked about that being a big trend. And basically, in a non-personal world, this was just a mock-up for something that we were doing for a potential client. Non-personal world, no matter how many times you visit the site or what search you're doing, you come in and you visit the same content. There's absolutely no need with tools and technology we have today to do that. We would be much better off if someone has come in looking at suites to present, or family rooms to present them with that content the next time they come. So pull together a package and offer. And the technology exists. It's plug and play technology that you can add to your website that allows you to do that. And I definitely see that as a massive trend. We've talked about how hard it is to get the visitor and to earn the visitor. So I think it's really important that we're starting to look at personalization on the site, both in terms of search, but also on our site, and we've got them to help maximize the conversion. If you had to go out and do one thing to go and improve your website, and you wanted to use, I think you would need to use an expert for that, an external company. I would encourage you to look at a conversion rate optimization audit, CRO audit, check with whoever you're going to use what that would encompass. But typically, it's looking at a review of Google Analytics. There's the interesting thing. 60 to 70% of Google Analytics accounts we look at before the client onboards are wrong. I doubt many car manufacturers let people go out the factory with the wrong speedo, but they're not reading correctly, they're not correcting their self-referrals, they're missing data, they're not capturing what they could. So Google Analytics is so important. It's the management accounts of your website. Yeah? So if it's the management accounts of your website, let's just make sure it's accurate. Heat mapping is very interesting. I think as an expert, being you yourself or your design agency, I think you can lay out what you think is going to work. But actually, it's not until you put the heat mapping on, and which is just looking at scrolls and clicks effectively, that you really understand how users are using that information. And until you know that, it's quite hard to affect any change and make any changes. It's extremely cost effective to do, and this is the reason I'm suggesting conversion rate optimization. I think bang for buck, I think it gives you a really good return. So Google Analytics, heat mapping, I think what you'd want as well is to look at content. And by the way, when you're looking at your content, please look at your content in the booking engine. You know, we all know CXL means cancellation, but you know, the poor guests don't. So when you're writing your descriptions for your booking engine, no offense, but don't have revenue. You know, just write it in short as possible. It needs to fit into the overall you know, marketing. It needs to be part of that brand that we were talking about. And the way that you will lay out your page, the way that you can use a room's description, we've all seen it ourselves. A whole lot of data, blimey, you know, I'll be dead before I read that. Or nice bullet pointed and a call to action, and that's what we want. And there's lots of evidence to suggest the best formats. So you'd want to look at your content format. And the call to action. Websites are built and often, you know, the client has lots of functionality, and that is to turn things on and off. And it is amazing the difference it can make when you turn off the call to action, you know, elements of the page, you know, to book, to call, or whatever. It makes a huge difference. So that was the CRO element. And lastly, I suppose just the last thing to say is more just, it's nice to try some fun things and just do things that are easy and a little bit different. I think trends, we were talking about what trends are, and think about how our customers view your website. Do you think that they go, oh, it's a really nice website and it's a really nice booking engine? Or do you think they view that, do you think they call it a website? It's a website. Us in the industry, you know, we generally take our booking engine when we're a third-party supplier, but the consumer doesn't know that. They're not really interested in that. And I guess what I really feel that the trend is we're going to move away from thinking about a website and a booking engine to a website that has the booking engine integration embedded in it. That this is the future, and this is an example of an in-context booking engine, which is a Sabre product, and other people are looking at similar things. It brings in the price and availability to the user at that time. I think it's a massive trend. I think there's a lot of evolution going on in the booking engine space. Read up on it, you know, because I think that's something that can really help improve conversion. Something I think is great, and please shout out if there's other companies in the room other than Optimising. We work with Optimising, and I would call it an experimentation platform. And what that means is I want to change the colour of the booking widget from red to green, but I don't want to go to my developer and incur all the cost. So I'll take some of my traffic and I will conduct this experiment on their platform. I will measure the results, and if it's conclusive, I will then go back and instruct my developer, you know, to make that change. Again, quite a nice piece of technology that isn't really that expensive. You need to make sure you know what the right experiments are. And this is the last slide, actually. Well, apart from conclusions. I think there's some great third-party plug-and-play technology. I know Hotel Champ are here today, and they are coming up with, let's call them widgets, add-ons, plugins, and live chat. I'll include this one as well, that are designed to make your life easier, and actually web developers' life easier as well. You can go and plug and play that technology, because one size does not fit all. The annoying thing about the marketing, I think, of these companies is every one of them increases your conversion by 30%. Well, in that case, it'd be really easy. It doesn't, and it's looking at what is right for a luxury brand will not be right for a city centre room machine. Okay, so you need to use different technology. So you'd be pleased to know, in summary, what can you do to help improve the conversion of your site? Set up a multidisciplined team from the organisation who have a vested interest and a team goal and perhaps incentive to drive an increase in conversion. If you can, benchmark yourself. One of the things that we do very well as hoteliers over a beer or a glass of wine is go, hey, tell me a little bit, what was your occupancy? SDR's covered that for us, I know now, but well, maybe we're not meant to do this, maybe we're not meant to share, but I think we can share our web numbers, or you can talk about that in the conference. Identify where it is you think your opportunity is. Is it your mobile booking engine that's letting you down? If it is, work on that. Pick 3 key focal points to work on. I think as a team, if you have any more than that, you're just going to lose it. Implement it, test it, and record it. Remember, when you are testing it, you need to make sure that the analytics or whatever platform you're using is accurate. And you also need to make sure the time period is correct. If you tested something last week and it's February half term, probably not the best week to be testing something. And as a team, look at what you think are the future trends in relation to your brand and align yourself towards that. So that's my personal insight, if you like, into some things you can be doing. Okay, thanks very much. I'm going to be around for another hour or so.